In 2002, Halliburton's former CEO had just moved into the White House as vice president, and within months, his old company received a classified, no-bid government contract worth up to $7 billion, yet the man who collected $150,000 a year from Halliburton while those contracts were approved was never once questioned under oath. They buried it, and it worked. So why has no one ever put those two facts in the same sentence for you? Halliburton built its name as the unglamorous backbone of American industry. Oil fields, military bases, pipeline construction. If something needed to be built somewhere no one else would go, Halliburton went. By the early 2000s, it was one of the most trusted defense and energy contractors in the world. Senators praised it. Shareholders trusted it. It showed up quietly, built things, and billed the government. Clean reputation, steady hands. The kind of company you don't think twice about until you start looking at the invoices. Here's what was happening behind that reputation. In October 2002, 5 months before a single boot touched Iraqi soil, the Army Corps of Engineers was already drafting a classified contract for post-war oil reconstruction. The winner wasn't chosen through competitive bidding. The winner was KBR, Kellogg Brown and Root, Halliburton's subsidiary. Dick Cheney had run Halliburton from 1995 to 2000. He built KBR into the company's most profitable arm. Then he left to become vice president. His office publicly denied any role in awarding that contract. No coordination, no influence, no conflict of interest. That was the statement they put out. Then, in 2004, an Army email surfaced, dated March 5, 2003. It confirmed the contract had been coordinated with the Office of the Secretary of Defense, Cheney's sphere. The approval came from inside the building where he worked. And while those signatures were being gathered, Cheney was still cashing $150,000 in annual deferred pay from Halliburton. He held 433,333 unexercised stock options in the same company he was now steering government money toward. But that's not even the part they really didn't want out. The contract was classified. The public couldn't see the terms. The press couldn't report the price. Congressional oversight committees weren't fully briefed. When the contract finally became public knowledge, the framing was careful. It was a necessary emergency measure, no time for competitive bids. National security required speed. And it worked. The story moved on. Reporters covered the war. The contract sat in the background. When a Pentagon auditor named Bunatine Greenhouse formally objected to the contract's terms and called the award improper, she was demoted. Her performance rating was suddenly downgraded for the first time in her 20-year career. The message sent was unmistakable. You don't question this contract. Now let's talk about the actual money. Halliburton and KBR build the U.S. government $39.5 billion in Iraq-related contracts between 2003 and 2006 alone. Government auditors found $1.4 billion in what they called questioned or unsupported charges. KBR billed $61 million for fuel deliveries that the Pentagon itself said were grossly overpriced. They billed for meals they didn't serve. They billed for employees who weren't working. In one case, KBR charged $45 per six-pack of soda and $100 per bag of laundry. These weren't rounding errors. These were line items submitted, reviewed, and largely paid. And here's the twist that changes the whole story. The people responsible for auditing those charges, the Defense Contract Audit Agency, flagged billions in improper costs. But the Army paid anyway. Contracting officers overrode the auditors and approved payments that their own accountants had explicitly rejected. This wasn't an oversight. This was the system working exactly as it was designed to by the same people who would later cycle out of government and into private consulting roles. The revolving door didn't just exist. It was the mechanism. Meanwhile, back in Houston, Halliburton's stock more than doubled between 2002 and 2005. Here's why no one faced consequences. Cheney's legal team argued the deferred compensation and stock options were structured before he became VP and therefore created no ongoing conflict. The Office of General Counsel agreed. The ethics paperwork was technically clean. Technically, the intelligence that justified the war, the same intelligence that made KBR's contracts essential, came from a process Cheney's office had a documented hand in shaping. The committee that could have subpoenaed him never voted to do so. Bunatine Greenhouse eventually won a whistleblower lawsuit years later for a fraction of what she'd lost. KBR was spun off from Halliburton in 2007, which conveniently separated the subsidiary's billing controversies from the parent company's balance sheet. And Dick Cheney went on to write a memoir, launch a consultancy, and speak at conferences. The investigation that never opened is still technically open. The number that sticks with me isn't $39.5 billion. It's zero. Zero officials prosecuted. Zero executives deposed under oath. Zero auditors whose objections resulted in a contract being clawed back. The system that allowed a sitting vice president to hold stock options in a company receiving classified no-bid war contracts. That system has not been reformed. The same revolving door between defense contractors and government offices exists today in the same building with different names on the nameplates. Halliburton still operates, still contracts with the U.S. government, still wins work the public doesn't learn about until years later. So here's the question they really don't want you asking: who's cashing the checks this time?